So this is task 2, accounting for atoms. So 1, a chemical equation is balanced if there are equal amounts of each kind of atom on both sides of the equation. So when we're balancing equations, we want to check and see, are there the same numbers of atoms on each side, and are there the same kinds of atoms on each side? So number 2, accounting for atoms, determine the number of atoms of each kind in each of the following. So this is good practice for what you're going to see in chemical equations. So CaCO3. So in this one, there's 1 calcium, 1 carbon, and 3 oxygens. Okay. In B, it's got parentheses. So what you want to do with the parentheses is you need to distribute the 2 when you're counting how many atoms. So with the N, there's no subscript right next to the N. But because of this 2 in the parentheses, there are 2 nitrogens. With the hydrogen, there's a 4 here, but you also have the 2, so you want to multiply. So 2 times 4, there's going to be 8 hydrogen. For the S, there are no subscripts and no parentheses, so there's just 1 of the sulfurs. And then for the oxygen, there are 4 oxygens. Let me zoom back out there. Okay. And let me jump down to D. So D has a coefficient, and it also has parentheses and subscripts. So when you have a coefficient, the coefficient goes to everything that is in the equation or in the formula. So the 2 here only goes to what's in the parentheses, the hydrogen and the oxygen, but the 4 goes to everything. Okay, the 4 goes to everything in the formula. So for D, there are 4 magnesium. There are how many oxygen? So the oxygen has a subscript 2 because it's in the parentheses, but it also has the 4 for the coefficient. So 4 times 2, you're going to multiply, is 8. There are 8 oxygens. And same thing for hydrogen. There's the 2 on the outside of the parentheses and the 4 coefficient, so there are 8 hydrogens as well. Okay. Do C and E on your own and check the key in class. So for each equation, list the number of each type of atom shown on the reactant side and the product side of the arrow. Also indicate whether the overall equation is balanced. So what this is called here is, from your notes, it's called an atom inventory. And you're just inventorying how many atoms of each element there are on both sides of your equation. So an equation is separated by the arrow. There are lots of different words we can use for the arrow, but one of the most common ones is to say yields. Hydrogen, remember, is a diatomic. So anytime a diatomic element is by itself, it's going to have a little 2 next to it, and most of them are a gas. So hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and chlorine are all gases. Bromine is a liquid, and iodine is a solid at room temperature. So 5 of the 7 are gases at room temperature. So yeah, you've got sodium reacting with water to form or to yield sodium hydroxide and hydrogen. Okay. Also with the diatomics, you don't name them anything different. You just call them by their element name. And you just have to remember to put in the little 2. Okay. So let's do a quick inventory here. So sodium on the left, there are 2 of them because there's a coefficient. Hydrogen on the left, there's a coefficient and a subscript. So coefficient here, subscript right there. So you're going to multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. Oxygen, does not have a subscript, but it does have the coefficient, so there are 2 of them. And then the product side on the right, you have sodium, there's 2 because of the coefficient. Hydrogen, this is a little tricky because hydrogen is in both of your products. Okay, so there's 2 here because of the coefficient. Okay, and I kind of do the math off to the side. And then there's 2 here because of the subscript. So there's 4 hydrogen total in the products. And then the oxygen is right here, and you have the coefficient again, so there's 2. So then to see if it's balanced, you just want to make sure if everything matches. So 2 sodiums in the reactants in the products, yes. 4 hydrogen in reactants and 4 in the products, yes. Oxygen, 2 reactants, 2 products, yes. So that equation is balanced. Okay. Let's jump down to one with some parentheses. Let's jump down to H. Okay, so H, quick inventory. Aluminum on the left for the reactants is 1. If you want to do one element at a time, you can, or if you would like to do all the reactants at one time and then all the products, whatever works best for you. Let's do one element at a time this time. So aluminum on the product side is just 1 because there's no coefficient, and aluminum is not in the parentheses and it does not have a subscript next to it, so there's just 1. Okay, nickel on the reactant side is 1. Nickel on the product side is 1. Nitrogen on the reactant side is 2 because of the subscript. There's no coefficients. Actually, this whole equation, there's no coefficients. And nitrogen on the product side is 3. And oxygen, you've got subscripts inside and outside parentheses. So again, you multiply that. So 3 times 2 is 6. On this side, 3 times 3 is 9. So is this equation balanced? I don't think so. So aluminum and nickel, they match. That's good. 1 aluminum, 1 nickel, 1 nickel. But the nitrogen doesn't match. 2 and 3 don't match. And the oxygen doesn't match. 6 versus 9. So this equation is not balanced. Okay? So that's all you're doing for this worksheet. When you finish, make sure you check the answer key.